Now joining me is Mercedes Schlapp, former Trump White House comms director, and Horace Cooper, Project 21 co-chair. Merry Christmas to you both. Mercedes, did you share any of those grievances with me?
Oh, my goodness. I think your list was longer than mine, Raymond. But I got to say, I think we can all agree that we are so ready for 2021 to be over. You've seen these poll numbers come out saying that half of the Americans really think that it's been the worst year of their lives. But, you know, I do think that in the midst of President Biden really pushing the fact that those that are unvaccinated are going to have a very dark and very dreary winter, you know, I really remain hopeful. I really feel that there has been a rise of the American people, that we are strong, that we are resilient, that we will fight back against what I see are forced vaccine mandates and fight back against these unfair, really radical policies like CRT and this gender confusion that they're pushing on our schools. It has been the rise of the Americans, of the deplorables, of the parents who have said no more. And I think that it's really been an awakening for so many Americans to stand up against what I would call as a radical agenda by many of these politicians. And the people are saying no more. So we need to be hopeful at this point.
Mercedes, it is curious how these policies, at times radical policies, have brought together this new coalition of Hispanics and women and Democrats and African Americans. It's very curious how that's all forming almost a new coalition. Horace, Kamala Harris doesn't think she's to blame for any of this or her abysmal poll numbers. The New York Times reporting Ms. Harris has privately told her allies that the news coverage of her would be different if she were any of her 48 predecessors, whom she has described as all white and male. Horace, her approval recently hit 28%. Does that explanation hold for you? Is it racism or sexism?
Well, first, let me say Merry Christmas, because this is a wonderful time to celebrate the greatest gift of all. I wish that as we head into 2022, that people like our vice president and other Americans actually took some responsibility for their actions. You know, it's said that if you're digging a hole and you're down to 28% approval rating, maybe you should stop digging. Maybe you should reverse course. There have been myriad number of very, very bad policies. The great thing about America is, one, we've got some elections coming up, but two, it's our resilience. It makes it possible for us to overcome even some of the most bumbling, some of the most backwards policies.
Yeah. The malaise overshadowing this economy has really taken hold even of Biden's aides, guys. Politico reports camaraderie has been fleeting and many teams are suffering from low morale. Many are also currently eyeing the exits, creating the potential for higher than usual turnover at the beginning of the year. Mercedes, it looks like Kamala Harris's office isn't the only one with a problem here.
No, I have to tell you, and I read that article, and actually some of these staffers were also complaining they didn't get invited to holiday parties. It's like, people, the American people are suffering right now. This is not about the White House Christmas party. Let's be real. But, you know, look, here's the deal. There's so much dysfunction happening in this White House because you really don't know who's in charge. And in essence, when you're getting one negative poll after the other, when you have a president that you don't feel is strong enough to lead, when you've had one policy failure after the other, that puts an enormous amount of stress on the staff, because what's happening is that they're on defense. They're not on offense. And look, even President Biden admitted this week in the interview with ABC that he has failed on the pandemic, that they should have done better. There was no strategy in place. And we also saw with Afghanistan that the decision-making of that group, of that team, of that administration, they failed the Afghan people, they failed the Americans, they failed our military. And on the economy, this is the driving issue for the election next year. And all we keep hearing is inflation, higher food prices, higher gas prices. And for the American people, these pocketbook issues, will make the difference. So these White House staffers can be mad and upset, but it's because this administration is failing the American people.
Yeah. Horace, I need to shift to Congress. Here are all the members of Congress who've tested positive for COVID over the last week alone. What do all of them have in common? They're all fully vaccinated. Some are even boosted. Horace, what does that microcosm of Congress tell us about the effectiveness of the Biden vaccine mandates outside of Congress?
Well, Congress, you know, has set up some of the most restrictive policies possible as part of their so-called COVID mitigation. And it's not working. One of the most serious ones that I think that our founders would be very concerned about, is this vote from home. It's already light work as it is to be a member of Congress. Now, you don't even have to show up and matter. You just send your message in. You just send your vote in. But there is a reckoning coming. And just look, you see the COVID numbers exploding, but I'm watching the number of retirees, the resignation announcements that are occurring. They're running like scalded dogs, as we would say here in Texas.
Mercedes, Horace, before I go, 15 seconds each. Do you have a personal grievance of the year? I'll start with you, Mercedes.
You know, I think for the most part, it's been the lack of responsibility, the lack of vision and optimism by the Biden administration. They are providing no message of hope, no strategy, no plan. And I think that it has been very destructive and created a huge fatigue amongst the American people.
Oh, Mercedes, we had dancing nurses and a new dog and cat. Come on. Horace, what's your grievance?
I wish that our courts were a lot more sympathetic to the liberty interests of the American people. Instead of waiting and delaying, they should just boldly announce these actions, these mandates, these interferences of your rights and your freedoms are unconstitutional, and get it over with.
Oh, you have queued me up perfectly. Mercedes, Horace, Merry Christmas.